For me, it's a great and special pleasure to be among so many personalities, but allow me, Mr. Provost, Dean, and all the faculty, allow me to express a special satisfaction for the presence of so many students, because I think that at the end of the day, what is really very important is to get in touch with the students who are the real, let's say, utilizers or the real target of all our work. Italy is somehow everything for me. It's a country where, of course, you can find samples of all the fields of human culture. And I would like to try to tell you about my country, and to tell you also how this country is changing, like all countries of the world. And in a globalized world, in the 21st century, when we cannot ignore each other, we cannot ignore the other countries, certainly it is very important to understand the changing, and so not to stop to the stereotypes, which are also very often the other face of prejudice. And that's why I chose the title of today's meeting. So it's not only updating, but what does it mean, with some very simple examples. From pizza to PhD, from Dante to DNA. And then I got the idea, instead of organizing a well-structured lecture, which is something I'm not able to do since I always improvise my speeches, I wanted to be guided today for the first time by something. And the guidance is very simple, it's the alphabet. And so let's start with the letter A. A as art. And you can see, of course, the classic art of the Renaissance, Michelangelo Buonarroti. But also you can see a great master of the 20th century, such as Giorgio Morandi. This is to say that the Italian art is not only the great art of the Renaissance, of the art of centuries ago, but in each and every century of our culture we had some renowned masters which are acknowledged all over the world as really the finest example in the art. For instance, Giorgio Morandi, and there is always a link with the United States. Morandi had a very successful exhibition last year at the Metropolitan Museum in New York. Was a huge success, and just few weeks ago we learned that for their collection at the White House, the presidential couple chose also to have a few Morandi. Probably the influence of this exhibition has been somehow important. Going on, we have the letter D. D as design. Design linked, of course, with creativity. Design is also a key word to have success in nowadays economy and competition. Certainly you cannot live and beat the competition only with prices in modern world, when you have emerging countries which are able, of course, to offer products at much cheaper prices. So you need to have something more. You have to have your creativity, and the creativity is translated into design. You have to have research. We mentioned this before. Here you see, for instance, a couple of great Italian designers, Lella and Massimo Vignelli. They are architects living in New York, and once again a sign of the Italian presence, of the Italian contemporary presence in New York City and in America. This map of Manhattan subway system, which is rather not like an icon today. You have posters with the subway system of Manhattan, was designed by Mr. Vignelli. And then the word immigration. This is a country of immigrants, this is very true, and these immigrants made the change of the country, making their own change. And you see Ellis Island, where most of those who arrived there during decades at the beginning of last century were Italians. And you see one product of the success of this immigration, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi. So she is the number 3 in the ranks of the United States, and she is a proud Italian American. Then the word industry. Italy is an industrial country, and this is important to stress in a time which is called post-industrial time, post-industrial era. I think that after the financial crisis of this year, of last year, it is quite important for Italy to keep its industrial capability and competitiveness in order to be able to have a sound economy. Of course, also industry is based on creativity, and so in order to be competitive and to beat the competition of other countries which can be able to sell at lower prices. We have an example here with, for instance, Fiat, the Fiat 500, 500, the very small car which was a big hit in the 50s and the 60s, and is now again produced, has been proclaimed car of the year in Europe I think last year, and will be sell in America in about 1 year. I drove the Fiat 500 for the first time. It was the first time that the 500 was on the American streets this year in June between Park Avenue and Wall Street. And in a year of great economic crisis which hit all the countries, including Italy, very severely, we are beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And now another symbol of the Italian daily life, Vespa. On one side you can see a Vespa of the 50s or 60s, this is not me. And on the other side you can see a Vespa of today in New York City, and that's me. And Vespa is also part of the evolution of design, of the evolution of the ability to be free to move, beating the traffic, but also beating the pollution and the gasoline price. That's why it's so popular in Italy, and that's why it's going to be more and more popular also in America. We had last year, especially in the big cities like New York, a huge increase in the presence of Vespas in American cities, and probably the same will happen with small cars.